It all started with a spark. One I knew I shouldn't entertain, one that could burn my entire world to the ground. But sometimes, the forbidden is far too enticing to resist. My name is Olivia, and this is the story of how my life spiraled into chaos because of one secret I thought I could control. When I first met Richard, my fiancé's father, it was at a family dinner. He walked in with the kind of presence that silences a room. He was nothing like Liam, my fiancé. Richard was confident, charming, with salt and pepper hair and a sharp suit that hinted at his wealth and power. His piercing blue eyes lingered on me for just a second too long, and in that moment, I felt something I had no right to feel. It started innocently. At least, that's what I told myself. During family gatherings, Richard would find subtle ways to talk to me. A compliment here, a lingering glance there. He had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room, and against my better judgment, I started to crave his attention. One evening, while Liam was out with friends, Richard invited me over to discuss the engagement party plans. That's what he called it anyway. I should have known better when I arrived and found the house empty. He greeted me with a glass of wine and that devilish smile that made my knees weak. "You're too good for Liam," he said, his voice low and smooth. "He doesn't see you the way I do." I laughed it off, but the tension in the room was suffocating. When he placed his hand on mine, I didn't pull away. That night, we crossed a line we could never uncross. What followed was a whirlwind of stolen moments and secret rendezvous. Richard was intoxicating. He made me feel alive in a way Liam never could. But with every kiss, every whispered promise, the weight of our deception grew heavier. I knew what we were doing was wrong, but I couldn't stop. Liam began to notice something was off. "You've been distant lately," he said one night, his eyes searching mine for answers I couldn't give. I assured him everything was fine, but the guilt was eating me alive. Then came the engagement party. It was supposed to be a celebration of our love, but all I could think about was Richard. He watched me from across the room, his eyes burning with desire. When he slipped me a note asking me to meet him in the study, I knew I was playing with fire, but I couldn't resist. "We can't keep doing this," I whispered, my voice trembling as he pulled me into his arms. "It's wrong." "Wrong has never felt so right," he murmured, his lips brushing against mine. And just like that, I was his again. But secrets have a way of coming to light, and ours was no different. One night, Liam's sister Emily saw us together. The look on her face was a mix of shock and disgust. "How could you?" she hissed. "He's Liam's father." I begged her not to say anything, promising it was over, but the damage was done. Emily didn't confront Liam directly, but her behavior around me changed. She became distant, cold, and I knew it was only a matter of time before she told him. Richard and I tried to end things, but the pull between us was too strong. Every time I told myself it was the last time, I found myself back in his arms. The secrecy, the danger, it was addicting. But with each passing day, the walls were closing in, and then the unthinkable happened. Liam found a series of messages on my phone, messages that left no doubt about my affair with his father. The confrontation was explosive. "How could you do this to me?" Liam screamed, his voice breaking with betrayal. "With my own father?" I tried to explain, to apologize, but there were no words to justify what I had done. Richard walked in during the argument, and the sight of the two of them standing there, both devastated by my betrayal, was more than I could bear. Liam punched Richard, the force of it sending him staggering back. "You're no father of mine," he spat before storming out. Richard turned to me, his face a mix of anger and desperation. "We'll get through this," he said. But I knew better. There was no coming back from this. In the aftermath, everything fell apart. Liam ended our engagement and cut ties with his father. The family was in shambles, and I was left alone, haunted by the choices I had made. Richard tried to keep me in his life, but the guilt was too much. I couldn't look at him without seeing the pain we had caused. I'd like to say I've learned my lesson, that I'll never make the same mistake again. But the truth is, some scars never heal, and some sins are too great to be forgiven.